Welcome everybody. As we're listening to some music, you can already fill out the Mentimeter, which is dropped in the chat, just to check in a bit. Welcome at this session. Great that you're here. Welcome Julia, welcome Robin, welcome Katie, welcome Zoom user. Good to have you with us. Akina is joining as well. Welcome Akina, good to have you. You can also fill out the Mentimeter. And then we're going to get going in about 1 minute with this lovely session. All right. Hi, Andy. Welcome. Julia. Awesome. Great to have you with us. I will now shortly share who is actually in this space. This was the song Just Jammin'. So we are here at an incredible session centering equitable well-being in our work. The question that we're going to explore: how can we generate the conditions for shared equity and well-being in our communities and networks? But before diving into that, we're going to surely have a look of who is actually there. Mostly leads or coordinators of a network, also 2 people, 3 people working in philanthropy. If you're working as something else, you can also drop that in the chat if you want. We're very curious always of what are people doing in this space. Welcome. And we have 3 answers of what is it that you hear. What comes to mind when you feel equitable well-being? Equitable access to well-being and thriving, ensuring that everyone has the ability to be well. See an image of a silent disco, everyone dancing to the beat of their own drum together. I love that. That's definitely in the spirit of the festival. We could do that after the session. People feel they can be authentic and fully show up, realizing that different people have different needs, especially with regards to different types of systemic inequality and discrimination. Great answers. Thank you for sharing. And then I'm going to take some more time, I guess, with this one as people are filling out, because this is an important one. What would you like to take away from our time together? You can find the Mentimeter link in the chat. And we're just slowing down for this answer, slowing down being important for well-being. We have 3 answers dropping in. I'm already going to start sharing a bit as you still share. So some of the things you want to take away from the session is to gain insights to other experiences. How can we actually create equity if everyone's needs are so different? Connect in capital letters, that's amazing. Connection being one of the main parts about well-being. Self-confidence to bring this forward more in the spaces I operate in. Okay, so how to bring that into other spaces. Practical ideas for implementation, knowing what common mistakes or oversights can be. Ideas on how to attack our issues which are not yet seen yet. So those are great intentions, and I think also great input for the speakers and the facilitators of the session to react to. And lastly, 80%, this is my final question, by the way, of this whole survey. 80% of you want to dance, 20% of you want to sing. So maybe really towards the end, there can be this silent disco, as there is quite some energy around dancing. Warm welcome again. We've reached the end of the presentation, as it says here. And I'd love to also share shortly, just in this 2-minute video, what is the Networks Festival, because this is the context in which the session is embedded in. And after that, we're really directly gonna get to equitable well-being. But for now, please just take a moment to watch the video and also feel, like what is resonating within you, because I'm going to ask you to share a bit of that in the chat as well. So here we go.
Change the world through a better party.
Addressing complex issues requires radically changing the way we work together.
We believe networks are the incredible invisible forces with the potential to reshape our world.
Thousands exist around the globe.
They drive deep change across education, jobs, equity,
climate, agriculture, biodiversity,
migration, health, and so on.
There are so many groups, so many communities of practice, so many local ecosystems, so many alumni associations.
Networks are very powerful in creating a sense of belonging and also connection.
The cross-pollination of energy, of positivity and encouragement.
People can understand each other's interests, find their intersections, and work together on what matters to all of them.
But so many times, networks are underfunded.
Despite their norm-breaking approaches to social change, they are highly misunderstood.
For most, how to do this amazing work is a little bit of a mystery.
And we need to change that.
There's an incredible wealth of knowledge and lived experience on how networks can and do change our world.
That's why, across the month of May 2023, we will bring together thousands of network leaders,
funders, conveners, companies, and governments to deepen our understanding of how to drive social change through networks.
To learn together, to share together.
Try out new practices, new ideas.
And we will play.
Some of the most impactful social change happens when people have fun together.
We need to deploy the knowledge and the wisdom, the collaborative power to create magic that will make our world a better place.
We'd love you to join us.
Will you join us?
See you there.
And indeed, you did join us. And I would love to just hear in the chat if there's one sentence, one word, something that resonated with you about this approach to networks. The collaborative power to create magic. Party, yes. Dancing our way into the future. Global collective, love those. Wonderful. All right. And with that, and you can still share your resonances. But with that, I'm going to give it over to Emily, who is facilitating the session. Take it away, Emily, and enjoy your time together.
Thank you so much, Adrian, and hello everybody from my side as well. My name is Emily, I'm from Unity Effect, and I'm really excited to facilitate this session together today because this is such a huge and complex topic, and I'm sure we can learn so much from each other over the next hour and a half together. Before we get started with any kind of next steps of what we're going to be doing, I want to share, get to know you a little bit as well. And so I invite you to go to the chat and write there two things. Firstly, where are you calling from? Because I'm curious where you are right now in the world. I'm calling from Germany. And secondly, just to connect in with ourselves and the topic of our own well-being, how charged is your internal battery today? So no competition, no right or wrong, just checking in. If you want to take a breath, just to check in with yourself, how's your energy right now from 0% charged to fully charged? And you can write it in the chat. Welcome those who are just joining us. We're just having a quick check-in. And the question is, where are you calling from and how charged is your internal battery today? Carolina, you're at 60%. Stephanie is supercharged. Who else is in the room with us? Robin, you're calling from Canada, 70%, 75%. Katie's also 75%. Vila is more at 50, 53. I enjoy it, very specific. Nice. So those who just joined, you're still welcome to share in the chat with us. Calling from the Netherlands, 60%. Yeah, so quite a few of us are, some are probably rather in the morning, some are in the afternoon. So we will try to work with everybody's energy as you are here. And I hope that we will leave the session with a little more energy than we came with, but we will see what happens. All right, so thanks for checking in. And what we're going to be doing together is we're going to go into a World Café. And I'll explain that a little bit later, but I'm not here alone. I also have some really wonderful speakers together with me who are deep into the topic of equitable well-being in their work. So the first part is that we're going to invite them to share a little bit about themselves and their work, and especially respond to the question which is guiding our session. Adrian mentioned it before, and that question is, how can we generate the conditions for shared equity and well-being in our communities and networks? Later on, we're going to have breakout rooms. We're going to dive deeper into the specific aspects of this question, and then we'll return back to it at the end. Carolina is also here as well, and she's helping in the background more with tech stuff. So if you have any issues at any point, you can write to her and she'll try to help you out. But to start us off, I would love to invite Drew to take the floor and share with us for a few minutes about yourself, your work, and this question.
Thank you, Emily. Hopefully I can increase some of the energy levels here. We'll see. We'll try our best. It seems like some folks are ending their day as I'm just beginning mine. So maybe that's the case for some of us. I'm Drew Martin. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and really grew up under some really adverse conditions, in a city that size, with limited opportunities for success, and, through a strong mother, through a strong community network that my mother was a part of, and honestly, through some sheer luck and being at the right place at the right time, I find myself in the position I am now to hopefully start to do the things necessary to alleviate those barriers that I had as an African American, growing up in Chicago. I'm currently in Champaign, Illinois, which is about 2 hours south, so a little bit more rural area of the state, which is really exciting for me because a lot of our work, especially here in the States, especially with my company that I work for now, that we're really looking towards that more rural equity, as well as, you know, what's happening in our urban areas as well. So I started with We in the World in February, so still new to the organization, but definitely not new to the mission. But previous to that, I worked for the largest health insurer in the world, which is United Healthcare, and led a lot of the social determinants of health initiatives and investments that United Healthcare has embarked upon, which I think has given me a really good insight on how some of these things can be funded, what policy is looking like when it comes, especially in the States, when it comes to funding and enacting the necessary things that needs to happen when we're talking about everyone having optimum opportunities when it comes to health and well-being. So Wellbeing and Equity in the World is my company, also known as We in the World, is a global health equity firm that's focused on advancing intergenerational well-being and equity. We're built on a foundation of racial and economic justice. We believe in 4 pillars, which I think really speaks to the question that's being asked for today. And that, you know, these 4 pillars is everybody holds a piece of the puzzle. Some people cannot add value to the overall, you know, they can't add their piece because of suppression and exclusion. We always talked about that being the untapped potential that's in these communities, and having that abundance mindset, that the people that are going through the issues also hold a piece of the puzzle to solve it. The third one is like only together, why I love to call it like this, only together can we create a sustainable path forward. And then finally, transformation happens once our collective powers are unleashed. Our expertise in We in the World lies in, you know, a few critical areas: racial justice, public and population health, especially that part, as well as our founder is a trained physician, and we have a lot of healthcare leaders, both past and present, that's, you know, either full-time employees at We or part of our network of advisors. But so we talk about the public and population health. We have a multitude of tools and activities to use when we're talking about doing community transformation work, equitable economies, measurement, both development of data and then the dissemination of it so it makes sense to people. And finally, overall change management. We're really honing in on work around mindset shifting as well over the next year or so. Our team is spread across the U.S. I think we cover all the time zones. As small of a company as we are spread across the U.S., but we're also a global firm as well. We have staff in Portugal, Nigeria, Kenya, and Indonesia. And this part of the reason why I left United to join this company is because I know the insight, and there's so much to learn from our global community that we're not tapping into nearly as much, which is another reason why I'm happy to be in this community as well. So We in the World, man. We're also across the world as well. Our work post-pandemic has really focused in on finding those social and financial vaccines. A lot of the money in the States went towards disease management, but not as much was geared towards that social and financial management, especially post-pandemic. We in the World partners closely with both state and county health departments, about 50 plus across the U.S., both rural and urban. What we've learned that there is tremendous focus on addressing social determinants of health, but the foundation has still been built on public distrust and poor financial allocations over decades. So in response, you know, Wellbeing and Equity, created our Pathways to Population Health Equity Framework. And it's been adopted by 3 major organizations in this country: the Public Health Institute, the Association of State and Territorial Health Offices, and then finally the National Organization of State Offices of Rural Health. So they have all adapted this framework, and we're working with all 3 entities to implement it with some of their peers and officers. So the pathways to publication.
I'm just jumping in because we're a bit over time, so.
Oh, that you're right. It does
go.
It does
goes
go
quick.
fast, right?
Oh, good.
So really,
oh, good.
so in essence, I think to answer that question, we have our framework, right? That we've already implemented and taught to a lot of public health officials, communities, and community champions, individuals that want to do good work. And these 6 principles are health and well-being develop over time. We look at root causes and the structural inequities in the framework. We understand that root causes are place-based. So if there's no resources, how are you going to solve some of these root cause issues? We understand now that health equity is being used. That term is being used all across the country, but what's been implemented to actually change the course? Public health can adopt a more balanced strategy, and health equity requires partnerships. And I'll end it there. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Drew. And I'm sure everybody would love to learn more, but don't worry, you'll get a chance because all of you will get time in breakout rooms with each of our wonderful speakers. So this is just a little introduction, and then we'll move into a deeper dialogue in a little bit. But yeah, it's really cool to hear and learn about your personal journey as well as the work you're doing. So thanks, Drew. And next up, we'll hear from Tobile Chechidan, who is Network Co-Lead at the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. Hi, Tobile. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So good to see everybody and to be part of this event and festival, and really resonated with what was shared just now, Drew. I feel like personally and organizationally, there's so much resonance and connection. So really grateful for these platforms. Sorry, something flew into my eye. But on a personal level, my name is Tobile Chechidan, Johannesburg, South Africa. I had a background in advertising and marketing and got very frustrated with this industry because everything felt like they would say the right words, but it was a tick box exercise at the end of the day. And they would speak about purpose, but it wasn't actually meant from a top, level, exco level, board level, shareholder level, whatever you want to say. And that frustrated me. So for 10 years, I tried many mechanisms, trying to make a meaningful change in the advertising and marketing space, and eventually left and started working in creative development in the city and came across this grassroots community that was just starting to form called Makers Valley. And we were building a grassroots community, but with this ethos of well-being at the center. And how can we create a new community with that being our primary driver? And came across the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. We became members and now became part of the team last year. And I think prior to that, what's informed my sense of justice, I guess, is because living in South Africa and born just at the end of apartheid in South Africa, which was around racial segregation, very similar to Drew, I grew up in a very multicultural space and saw what the power of allyship and the power of change can do for people that are marginalized in communities. So I grew up with that from a very, very early age. But in terms of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, we also call ourselves We All, which I also think connects so much to your organization, Drew. For short, in terms of Wellbeing Economy Alliance, we formed in 2018. And I think to answer this question, I really believe that shared equity and well-being requires deliberate and transformative approaches. And this is really where Wellbeing Economy comes in, because the deliberate change that we need to make, or we believe needs to be made, is in the economic system. The design of the economic system really drives behavior in the workplace and communities, because we are all obsessed with growth, with GDP as an indicator, which we believe solely as an indicator doesn't measure the well-being of the people and the planet. And so we really want to co-create and co-design an economic system that values and prioritizes the quality of life, human flourishing, ecological sustainability, And this really means moving our indicators from what we've had specifically around GDP that drives the way that businesses engage, that governments engage, to other holistic indicators that capture social progress, that capture the environmental stewardship that we can see in grassroots communities and indigenous communities, and that I think contribute to individual and collective well-being. And we really are passionate about participatory processes. That really should be the design of economic systems worldwide, that it should be inclusive, that it should be a whole of society approach. I am not an economist or an academic. That's a just disclaimer for the rest of the conversation. But that is the whole point, is that we want this whole of society approach because we believe community leaders, spiritual leaders, teachers, doctors, all sectors of society should inform what we believe the economic system should look like. So bottom-up movement building, engaging diverse stakeholders, all of these, I believe, contribute to equity and well-being that we're wanting to see. So I'll end it there and we'll continue the conversation later.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tawila. Amazing how many connection points we've already found in the last few minutes, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come in the rest of our time. But for now, let's hear from Stephanie Nesselrode, who's the Chief Synthesizer for the 7th Generation Labs. Welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I'm going to watch this clock. At 7th Generation Labs, we focus a lot on sharing Indigenous wisdom. I've been blessed to have many Native teachers, and what I'm going to be doing today is sharing some tools from their perspective. So I'm going to be sharing today from the work of Paula Underwood, and her people were part of the creation of the Confederacy, of the oldest participatory democracy in the world. And when they came together as 5 warring nations, they made a commitment to the great law of peace. And it's all about the quality of their decision making. So it's about honoring the gifts and contributions from the past 7 generations, as well as protecting the future for the next 7. Some people call this 7th generation thinking. And if we expanded our time frame up to 7 generations, I think the quality of our lives would be much better. And so a quick story here. Crazy Horse was one of the Natives who declared war on the United States government when the government continued taking away their land. And 1 week before he died, he had a vision. And his vision was that it would be 7 generations from his time that young people would rise up and to save the planet and save the people on it. And so they call this generation the 7th generation rising. And we see that happening all over the world, whether or not it's the youth at Standing Rock fighting the pipeline or Greta Thunberg. So at 7th Generation Labs, we're really dedicated to supporting the work of these grassroots activists. So what was underneath the great law that made it work so well on a daily basis? It was this dance between individuals and the community. So children in this culture understood from the beginning of their lives that they were responsible to the community to contribute towards its welfare, its well-being. And the community then had a responsibility to support the gifts and talents of each of its members. So what I'm going to share with you are some of the systems that they created to make this a reality on a daily basis. The first was all of these people across these nations lived in 3 clans: the wolves, the bears, and the turtles. And for community events, you see how the wolves would organize it, the bears would make sure you continued to innovate, the turtles would make sure you were applying your lessons learned as you did it. And at certain key decision points within their clans, they would ask for people who had eagle energy, the ability to see things in context, to comment on this. So you had 5 nations all living within these groups, and you see how when they would come together to create like a community event or to prepare for warfare or whatever the task was, all voices were called in based on their specialty. And I've used this extensively with groups And they find it an easy way to say, oh my gosh, we need all of these rules, all of these roles. Why are we having conflict? Because all this needs to happen. So that was a bad rock wisdom. Secondly, they were organized into medicine societies. So if you were a person who knew a lot about hunting deer or how to grow the Three Sisters, or you had expertise on where would be the best place to move and locate our teepees, they formed medicine societies. So since children grew up knowing they needed to contribute by around the age of 6, they would come up with an initial way they wanted to serve, and the 6-year-old would be linked up with an elder in one of these medicine societies to learn what they wanted. And this wasn't a one and done thing. You could rotate between a lot of things that you wanted to learn about. This was a system for supporting young people. And the last way that they wove community was through their governance system. And people around the campfires voted for elder women to be clan mothers who were specifically responsible for the health of the community. And these women then appointed the men who were part of the outer-facing council to protect them from people outside the Confederacy. And women had the right to remove men who didn't follow through on listening to the voices of the people. They had accountability built in. And one last story, Paula Underwood was related to the Oneida chief who helped Benjamin Franklin try and make the United States Constitution more like the Confederacy. He fought very hard, but unlike their Constitution, the United States Constitution failed to include the rights of women, children, people of color, and Mother Earth herself. So we continue to be having struggles because of this, that they were not included. We're still working towards it. And Caroline is going to put a link in the chat of additional resources for those of you who are curious about Indigenous ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Wow. So if you're curious to learn more about each of our speakers, dive deeper into their thinking and their work, lucky for you, you have the chance coming up now, because we really want to create the space in this session to explore some questions around equitable well-being together, knowing that there are no easy answers or right answers a lot of the time, but that there is so much wisdom that we can learn from just within our group, not only from our speakers, but from all of you here. So what we've planned to do is have a World Café. And I don't know, I can see you, do some of you know the World Café method? Have you experienced it before? Give me a sign. Seeing a few nods. Cool. If you have not, imagine that we are all in a room together and we have 3 tables set up around the room. Each of our speakers is sitting at one of the tables. And we're going to have 3 rounds of dialogue where you get to speak to each of our speakers. For each of the rounds of dialogues, we have one guiding question, and the questions come from the speakers. We ask them beforehand to share a question with us. So the whole group will explore one question in one round, and then we'll come back, share our insights, and then move to the second round where you'll be with a different speaker. We will only have quite short breakout rooms, just 12 minutes, and the questions are pretty epic. So I just want to set the expectations now. We will not solve them right now, but I hope that we can enter into dialogue and maybe create connections to continue another time. That is what is going to be happening. Do you have any questions about the process before we share the first question? Cool. So once you're in the rooms as well, I really invite you, most of you have your camera on, that's awesome. If you are able to have your camera on, it's really nice to see each other. And just take care that everybody has a chance to speak. As I said, the time will be short, but if possible, build on each other's ideas, try to speak to the essence of what you want to share, so there's time for the others. You can use the digital hand raise or just physical hand in small groups to show as well that you would like to share. And other than that, enjoy your dialogue time together. So the first question that we will explore together comes from Tobile, and it is, how can we ensure that our work actively addresses the systemic barriers that perpetuate inequities, taking into account the principles of a wellbeing economy? So just a small question for a 12-minute discussion. So good luck. And we wish you wonderful dialogue and looking forward to see what comes out of it. And we see you back in 12 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good dialogue together. I'm sure it went way too quickly. Yeah, you're doing. I'm hoping this was yes fingers and not maybe fingers, Stephanie. I'd love to get a few like nuggets or takeaways in the chat from you all. So take a moment to think about, from what you were just discussing, is there something that you take with you, something that you still have as a question? It can also be a question to carry forward. So love working with questions or a little insight. I'll just give you a minute or two to collect your insights from your conversation. So far we have topics of unlearning, adjusting language, so super interesting, appreciating the diverse backgrounds, nice. Appreciation for those making efforts.
I wanted to ask, I posted while we were in the group, which is, I don't know if you've seen them. Or
no, we don't see them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. You can repost them here. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Because everything you do in your chat is in your private chat. So please put them here too. And we'll have them together. Use power and position to promote the voices of this. Oh, we're moving. So a few themes around language, unlearning, being proactive and consciously choosing, looking internally. All right. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. And Tabile, I hope you enjoy some of these insights into your question. Maybe I can bring some new perspectives. Before we move into the next round, and knowing that for some of us it's the end of the day, you might have been sitting down all day, would love to invite us into a moment of stretching a little bit, but I want to get inspired by you for some ideas and stretches. So if anybody has a stretch, you can share one with us. I will start us off just with a little bit of simple shoulder rolls. So invitation to sit up in your chair and moving your shoulders. All right, and I've already seen Stephanie has stretched her arms up, and you see how this works. We're doing a mirror, so it feels so good. Drew, I'm copying you now.
You can tell I'm old because everything is cracking.
We don't hear that, luckily.
Okay, good.
All right, Tiago, cool. I see you've moved on to a bit of a arm stretch like that. Katie, I think I saw you just doing a bit of a neck roll. Let's do that. Oh yeah, that's great. Anybody else got a stretch you'd love to offer to the group? Carolina, looks good.
Let it go all the way to your back, because that doesn't really get stretched when we're like sitting on here all day.
Oh yeah, that's great. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for your stretches and stretching along with us together. Are we ready with the next breakout rooms, just to check?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So we're out for round 2. So you'll get to speak to another one of our speakers. And the question that we have for this round comes from Stephanie. And that is, what's a new way you could support the gifts and talents of others in your community tomorrow? Nice, tangible, practical, getting into action question. Hope you enjoy that, and we'll see you back again in 12 minutes. So, welcome back. And once more, I know the time was, I'm sure, too quick, but I'm hoping that you still had some nice insights from your conversation. And I'd again like to invite you to share some of those in the chat with us. If you're writing in your other chat, you can copy them over now. And otherwise, take a moment to check in with yourself. What stands out to you from the conversation? Redistribution and holism, thanks to Whelan. Creating space with connected to clarity of vision. Holding space for all voices. Gatherings for those that do not have a voice. Interesting. Trust building.
We got to work together, Tobile. I like that.
Yes.
This is wisdom from my group, but it wasn't even me. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We all have to work together. I'm also so moved by what I've been hearing. So moved.
Same here.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful. Thank you. Let's take a few more moments. Creating spaces for embodied experiences. Bring different generations together. Okay, there's so much in here. I won't read it all out, but thanks so much for sharing. I think there's so much we can take from that. Isn't it amazing what can come from 12 minutes discussion when we're intentional?
It's a great
all
question.
Right. Beautiful question. And we still have one great question to go. But before we do that, let's have another little movement moment, because I know we are all getting Zoom fatigue these days, and I want to make sure that we don't just sit here like little Zoom robots. And for that, I invite you, if you're able, to stand up, and we're going to have a quick shakedown. So what we'll do is we're going to start with, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you're very much invited. It'll only be a few seconds. We're going to do 8 shakes of the right hand, 8 of the left, 8 shakes of the right leg, and 8 shakes of the left leg. Then down to 4, 2, 1, and ending with a ninja kick. And I will count us down. So are you ready to go for our shakedown? And yes, I'll stop the recording if you with our last question from, thanks Carolina, with our question from Drew. And that question is, what are the future disparities being created today? So enjoy your discussions. Very curious to see what comes out, and see you back again in 12 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, I'm seeing some nice smiles. So I hope you had a good discussion together. Let's have a final round of collecting our insights in the chat before we move into a bit of harvesting around our overall question. So I'd love to read your insights from this last round around future disparities being created today. Taking a few moments for that. Technology and wealth inequality, skills and AI. Having different perspectives is generative. I love that sentence. Tobile, thanks for sharing. having the workforce needed to assist those in need. Those in need. Whatever the problem, community is the answer. Odette, thank
I
you.
want that.
Very nice.
Title of my first book.
Really? This is actually a title of a book written by you?
No, I will write a book now.
Okay. I love it. I love it. That was beautiful. Thinking about who gets to think about the future. Very, very good point. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your insights there, and also there for Drew into his question. And as we come into the last minutes, I would love to invite us to think back to the question that we began our time with. And now we've taken 3 little mini deep dives into different aspects of that question, but let's come back to that. And that is, again, how can we generate the conditions for shared equity and well-being in our communities and networks? We've already just heard whatever the question community is the answer, but maybe you have some other thoughts around that. So just maybe take a second, tune in with yourself. Let it all settle, because we've covered a lot of ground, different topics, and I'd love to invite you to check in with yourself. Do you have one key takeaway or last reflection you'd love to share with us? And if you would like to also share out loud, I'd love to hear from a few people, maybe just 1 or 2 sentences. So short reflection, and you can raise your digital hand or your physical hand. I see you all. If you would like to share something for wrapping us up around this question, what are you taking with you? And if there's nothing you feel like sharing, then we can also enjoy a quiet moment. It's also nice. Thank you. Stephanie, you want to
Oh, I
share?
was just going to say, as I shared in my group, being in conversation with the people on this call just gives me so much hope for the future. We in this small little group represent so many areas where we're making a great difference from a really high level of consciousness. So I know we're going to keep learning from our efforts, and I just so appreciate people taking time out of their day to join us. So just very grateful, and grateful to the people who host and made all this possible, and Brandon for his vision of having this festival. I've just been amazed by the people I've met over this last several weeks. So just feeling a deep gift of gratitude to everyone.
Thank you for sharing that, Stephanie. Really beautiful. Anybody else still wanted to share any last reflections or thoughts? Okay. Yeah, Tiago.
Yeah, I'd like to just also, I'm so happy to meet Janie and what she brings, the work she does as also bridging or the elderly and the and keeping them, you know, with dignity and yeah, it's just so key, you know, I just wanted to it connects to many of other areas, you know, just to being able to having this relationship with our elders or ancestors, the people that came before us. And I think it's a very strong message and a strong work. And yeah, thank you. Just want to say that.
Thank you so much, Tiago. And in the spirit of continuing those connections, Carolina shared a few links in the chat just to share that as well. One is there are many events happening as part of this festival that you're most welcome to check out and join. You also can become part of the FITO network. And for the session itself, there was also a Menti in the chat where you can also share your email so that we can connect people later on. And there's a Actually, I don't know. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure exactly what will happen with the emails. I think that's what will happen. We will see. If you want to connect, write to each other now in the chat. And there's also a needs and offers spreadsheet for the festival where you can write there what you can bring into the community and what you might need so that we can tap into the network that's being built throughout this beautiful festival. But with that, we will come to the end of our time together. Thank you so much for being here, being present with us. It's really been a pleasure to spend this time with you. I'm curious because we started with the energy level in your battery. Do you feel at the moment, after this hour and a half, is your energy level gone up, down, stayed the same? Where are you at? Give me a quick indication. Some up, some neutral. I didn't see any down, so I'll take that as a good thing. So thanks to all of us for creating an energizing session together, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you're calling from. And if you want to stay around for a few more minutes to still connect, we'll still be here, but otherwise say goodbye. You can unmute yourself and say goodbye.